Coming up on the Morning Medical Update, we meet two surgeons and one little girl, how their collaboration helped give her a fighting chance at life. Also meet her parents who were right there through it all. And good morning. It is Tuesday, October 25th. I'm Jessica Lovell. We are live inside the Dulcie Simons Jr. Family Broadcast Studio this morning. Being told you have cancer or a tumor is tough, but especially for a child and their parents. It is a helpless time relying on the right doctors to know what to do. Get your questions sent in to us this morning. Right there are some links on your screen, or of course you can place them in the chat below. The American Childhood Cancer Organization found childhood cancer rates have been rising slightly for the past few decades, but thanks to major treatment advances, 85% of children with cancer will now survive 5 years or more. This is a huge increase compared to the mid-70s, when the 5-year survival rate was about 58%. The American Childhood Cancer Organization says every day 42 families learn that their child has cancer. At just 2 years old, Kolbie has already spent more time in the hospital than most people will ever spend in their lifetime. You're about to meet her and the two neurosurgeons who work across town from one another, but came together to help get Kolbie out of the hospital and back to being a kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Is that the doctors fixed your heart? And now today they're going to take your tumor out.
2-year-old Kolbie and her mom, Casey, share a moment before Kolbie's surgery. It's a moment they've shared many times. At birth, Kolbie had hearing issues, a heart murmur, and was hospitalized with RSV. But it was an MRI and biopsy that led to the discovery of a brain tumor.
Kolbie has a tumor that kind of looks like a barbell that's from back by her brainstem all the way up to her nose.
The family noted that she had some fullness in her face, and she was found actually over a year ago to have this very large tumor at the base of her skull.
It was ganglioma. Casey went into mom mode, but knew exactly where to turn.
We really felt like God has been just on this path with us and putting the right people in our path.
Children are not just little adults. You know, they require very, very special things.
And those right people were Children's Mercy neurosurgeon Dr. David Garcia and the University of Kansas Health System neurosurgeon Dr. Paul Camarata.
It requires the special expertise of surgeons of a number of different disciplines, including ear, nose, and throat, head and neck surgeons, ear surgeons, and neurosurgeons.
Doctors have kept an eye on Kolbie's tumor since she was 6 months old and will continue to monitor it.
There's a chance it could regrow. It's too early to tell, what the odds are for that happening. Our goal is to remove as much as possible, which will hopefully keep it away as long as possible. Our goal is to give her a long life.
Getting all of us together really shows a great collaboration that can happen in the medical community.
And we want to welcome in this morning Kolbie and her mom, Casey, and dad, Cale. They are joining us from Clyde, Kansas. We're also joined by Kolbie's two doctors, Children's Mercy Hospital pediatric neurosurgeon, Dr. David Garcia, and here in studio with us is Clinical Service Chief of Neurosurgery, Dr. Paul Camarata. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Jess.
Good to see you. I know that I was talking to Casey, and she said she hadn't seen you since this all happened over 2.5 years ago.
It's been a while, yeah. COVID intervened, and we haven't been together in a while.
Like many things, right?
Yes, yeah.
How great is it, though, to see? I always love watching when we show a story to set up a story, the smiles on our doctors' faces to kind of watch how they're doing now, right?
It's fantastic to see her. And, I hope, I know she's coming in to see us at some point in the future, but it's great to see how she's doing at home now.
All right, so Casey, Cale, tell us how Kolbie is doing today. How I see working on a little schoolwork, maybe?
She's actually drawing a picture for Dr. Garcia.
Oh, I got to see that. We are going to show that at the end of the show for sure. So get working on that. Mom, how is she doing today? Tell us.
She is doing just amazing. I mean, honestly, better than we could have even dreamed that she would be doing at this point. It's awesome.
Dr. Garcia, tell us about when you first met Kolbie and her family. What were you able to tell about Kolbie's tumor, her condition? What was that initial diagnosis?
So I met Kolbie when she was about 5 months old. This is January of 2019. And I think she'd already seen a couple other teams of doctors, ENT and the cardiology team over at KU and at Children's Mercy. And we knew that there was the tumor there was pretty readily evident on the face, but it went so much deeper than that. And they did a biopsy and it was a type of tumor that didn't necessarily a very malignant or high grade tumor, but we knew that it was going to be a problem and that needed to be addressed. So, but she was otherwise a pretty normal girl. I mean, she was, she was developing on a normal track. She had a little bit of heart failure, I think, when I first saw her, and she had heart surgery shortly after that. But otherwise, she looked like a normal 5-6 month old girl.
Dr. Camerata, what's a ganglioglioma, first of all?
Well, it's a type of tumor that is usually benign, that occurs in the nervous system, and it can grow both in the brain and outside the brain in nervous tissues.
So we see this in adults. Dr. Garcia, how often do you see this in children?
Well, I mean, it's rare. It's a rare type of tumor. It's even more rare where she had it, which is kind of at the skull base and face, and typically you find them up in the higher parts of the brain, and typically they cause seizures. And Kolbie didn't have any of those, and the location wasn't correct for that too. So it was a very unusual presentation of a fairly rare tumor.
So Casey, this started though, kind of what tipped you off was you thought that Kolbie was having trouble with her hearing. She wasn't passing the hearing test when she left the hospital at birth.
Yes, so when she was born, she did not pass her in screening, and that was kind of what started all of her. We went to an ENT in Salina, and then on to see Dr. Thedinger at Children's Mercy. And the kind of cool part of the story is that there was a resident with Dr. Thedinger, I'm going to say his name wrong, Dr. Albader, and he actually was on Kolbie's team then later on at Children's Mercy when she was inpatient with RSV. After she got flown to Kansas City with Grandma, he was on her team. And I mean, I guess kind of credit him for noticing that, her eye was not closing as well as it had been when we saw him earlier. And he really pushed, even though she had RSV, he really pushed for her to get a CT scan, get an MRI, and that kind of started it all off. And, we met Dr. Garcia after that, and, they did CT and MRI, angiogram, needle biopsy, and then, kind of like Dr. Garcia said, it came back, it was a ganglioglioma. You Google that, and
Yeah, don't worry, I had to Google it too. These big words sometimes that, you don't get introduced to, and certainly not when you have a child under the age of 1 and you're trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of twists and turns in your story, because before you even got to Dr. Garcia and this ganglioglioma, you had, did I do a good job?
Fantastic.
Did it? You were so
That's
proud
right.
of me. God, you were like a proud dad
That's
or
right.
something that I
Way
said
to
it
go.
right. Oh my gosh. So, but she had this heart murmur. You said you went in to think she had one thing, and they said, oh, by the way, did you know she had a heart murmur? I mean, how frightening is that?
It was really a crazy deal. We started seeing a new primary care physician, Dr. Larson, replaced our family physicians, and Kolbie and I went in because he wanted to meet us. We were new patients. He listened to her heart, and he kind of looked at me and he's like, did you know she has a heart murmur? And I was like, no.
Wow.
So, he got us to Mercy in Manhattan for a echocardiogram, and right after that they called and said, hey, she's got a hole in her heart. We want you to go see Dr. Casadante in Kansas City at KU Med. And we went, within a month's time, we went from, knowing she couldn't hear, which we thought was
Nothing serious.
to, she has a heart murmur. She's going to have heart surgery. A week later, she was, got sick
with the
with
RSV.
Yeah, she tested negative for RSV, and then she was so sick, and with her heart, they couldn't tell if they were worried she was having heart failure. Couldn't tell if it was that or the RSV. So she and Grandma Candy have to hop on an airplane to Kansas City, and from there it just kind of,
It's like talk about one thing after another, but we talk about that with health sometimes, Dr. Camerata, but not one thing after another when it comes to thinking your infant has a hearing problem. That's frightening. Yeah. Then you go into a heart murmur situation. I can't imagine what these parents are thinking. And now you're at Children's Mercy, and Dr. Garcia is we're talking about a tumor at the base of your head. So Dr. Garcia, you were going to wait until she was 2 years old to be able to do, I want to talk about how this all came to be, because now it's going to all lead you here to the University of Kansas Health System and your collaboration with Dr. Camerata. But why wait until she was 2? Did you need to wait till she was a certain age before you felt safe to operate?
It wasn't necessarily a certain age. We wanted her to get bigger. I mean, when she was 5 or 6 months of age, I had to look it up last night. She was like 6 kilograms, and so 6 kilogram baby is they just don't have as much blood volume as a larger kid or adult has, and so this thing was very close to a lot of important vascular supply, carotid artery, jugular vein, and so if you get into just even a little bit of bleeding, that can be quite serious in someone that has such a small overall blood volume. And so that was kind of one factor. We wanted her to get it as big as possible. 2 was kind of just an arbitrary number we came up with just to try to get her to. So we did scans, I think, every 3 months, and just made sure it wasn't growing at all, and it continued to behave. And then there was one scan, I think, early 2020, I think it grew, and then we just started the ball rolling on talking with a lot of different teams of doctors. So Dr. Camerata, there's actually another neurosurgeon involved that did the angiogram, Dr. Ebersol, and then ENT and head and neck surgery as well too, to kind of coordinate 4 or 5 surgeon schedules. It takes a lot. So there's a lot of emailing, a lot of back and forth. Luckily, we have a good relationship with Dr. Camerata. The KU residents come over. I mean, there's already an established relationship, and that helped kind of foster some of the collaborating back and forth. So
sure, what a peace of mind for Kale and Casey, just to know that everyone in town is looking at their daughter. Dr. Camerata, we were talking a little bit about, I said, I'm not clinical like most of our viewers, and so when we hear the word tumor, we sometimes jump to that means cancer. So there could be a tumor growing that isn't necessarily an imminent danger, meaning you can wait a little bit. Kind of walk us through kind of the difference. Sure. and why you were able to kind of really map this plan out so well.
Yeah, just so there are various tumors. Some are benign, meaning that they're slow growing, they're not going to spread, they won't ultimately kill you in a short period of time. And then there are those that do that. They're cancer where you've really got to jump on it. And this is one of those that grows slowly, but is unfortunately, or was, wrapped around very critical structures, the carotid artery, all of the nerves coming out of the brainstem, the brainstem itself, in addition to involving the throat, the back of the mouth. So it was one of those that obviously, if left very long, could cause significant damage. And part of the reason that the collaboration developed was that we here at the University of Kansas Health System, treating mostly adults, do tumors like this on a fairly frequent basis. We call them skull-based tumors, and we operate in that part of the brain and typically have a collaboration of many, many different surgeons. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Lin, Dr. Ebersol, and Dr. Kakarala, who were all involved in this from the head and neck team, otology, and endovascular neurosurgery. Because we deal with this regularly. Dr. Garcia deals with brain tumors in kids all the time, but this is an exceedingly rare location for a tumor even in a child. And so he said, you know, we need to get the team together and do what's best for the patient.
Yeah, that collaboration just seemed to make sense at the time. So what would cause something like, what causes these type of tumors? Is there anything that causes them specifically in adults or in children?
Well, we don't really know. There's no clear environmental cause. In most cases, they are sporadic, means they just happen. We don't know that there's a genetic cause for it. Obviously, at the basic, molecular level, there is a gene that has something's gone wrong with it. It's produced these abnormal cells, and the body's inability to keep them from growing. But in this particular case, I don't think we know.
All right, so I want to talk about the day of the surgery, because Kolbie was not treated at Children's Mercy. You decided to bring her here to the University of Kansas Health System. Just kind of tell us exactly how that all worked and what kind of take us inside.
Sure. So she did have she had her original biopsy done at Children's Mercy Hospital, I believe, showing that this was a tumor and that we needed to do something about it. And she had a number of her studies done over there. I believe the arteriogram was done here with her asleep, although that may have been at Children's Mercy. I don't remember. But on the day of surgery, she's admitted, she's put to sleep by a pediatric anesthesiologist, and then the surgeons take turns doing their parts. We put her in a very special position so that we're able to get to all parts of the tumor. We kind of plan out the incision, what type of a prep we're going to do, how much hair to clip off or not. And then, with all the surgeons in agreement, then we go ahead and make the decision. And then we'll kind of tag team each other, periodically. Dr. Garcia will be in there through most of the case. I think I was in there through most of the case as well. And then we'll, put a call out to the otologist and say, okay, we're getting near the ear. Why don't you come in and do a little dissection and show us where things are? And then, okay, we need the head and neck doctor, Dr. Kakarala, come on in the room and show us where the carotid artery is in this part of the lesion and what we need to avoid in the neck. And we all kind of are in and out of the room really all day. I can't remember, David, how long this took. Probably a good 10 or 12 hours. 13 hours, okay.
Mom remembers.
Mom knows, yeah.
down to the second. Dr. Garcia, what do you remember? And just when that all wrapped up, what were you able to go out and tell Kale and Casey?
Well, I mean, it was a long day. I remember that. There's parts where, the ENT team and the head and neck team are working. There's parts where we're not working, and then you almost have to rotate out, kind of get refreshed yourself, and get something to drink and sometimes to eat when you're in surgery that long. The other thing that I remember is once you have everything out, then you have a big hole to fill in, which includes the face and the parts of the ear and the bony parts of the ear and a big hole in the coverings of the brain called the dura, and that it's hard to recreate. And so we had to pack some fat in there and had to repair the what would ultimately leak fluid, and that was one of the issues we had kind of post-op or after surgery and the weeks afterwards as well too. Dr. Camerata, I was in the assisted Dr. Camerata. He took out the bulk of the tumor, like inside the dura and at the base of the skull, and I did my best to cheer him on as best as I could. But then I just remember that the repair at the end was also just an extreme case of this type of tumor, the aftermath of it. So
one interesting thing, again, we don't operate on children a lot. Dr. Garcia does all the time. And in adults, most of the time we fill up this defect with fat, autologous fat that we can obtain from, the abdomen of somebody. But in kids, in Kolbie, there's no fat.
There's nothing there.
So it's like we usually have volunteers in the room. I'll donate. Anybody? You can take some.
Right, I bet. So step right up for that. Really interesting. What? Go ahead, Casey. What's that?
They wouldn't let us.
They wouldn't let you.
Yeah.
They said all the nurses tried to, and
right, they wouldn't take it. That's funny. So I want to check in. Hang tight. We got to check in with Kolbie to see how that picture is going here in just a little bit. I got to see this portrait of Dr. Garcia. But let's check in with Dr. Dana Hawkinson, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control, joining us with our COVID count this morning. Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It doesn't seem to be going the right direction for acute cases. 31 in the hospital, 5 in the ICU, 2 on the ventilator, still 21 in that additional recovery period. But unfortunately, the last over the weekend and into today, we've seen an increase in those acute cases. So,
what do you make of that? Just
you know,
is this the
not
time
sure
of the year,
what's going on. Yeah, I've talked with Amanda Cackler and Lance Williamson, our IPAC nursing leaders. You know, we're still trying to figure that out. Again, as some of it just it hasn't been resolved, is in that recovery period, and they're still counted as acute. But it's certainly a large jump from where we were in those high teens on Friday. So.
Okay, I have an RSV question for you, not
Yeah.
COVID question. A lot of talk about RSV right now. We even talked about it off the top of the show because that's something that little Kolbie was dealing with among her other issues. But
Yeah.
a new article found that RSV vaccines in late stage development show promise in older adults. Is that something that we might see?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is great. You know, we've been trying to get an RSV vaccine for 40 to 50 years, and that's why I think when you look at what's happened with the mRNA vaccines for COVID, for SARS-CoV-2, it's such a miracle that it came to fruition so quickly. We've been trying to develop a RSV vaccine for quite some time for both children and adults. I think I think there were 3 main ones that were in those later stages and seemed to be very safe, but also develop that immune response. So this is all good news because adults can suffer from RSV as well, especially older adults. But again, we also have those adults that have immune compromising conditions that can get infected with RSV and have severe outcomes as well. So overall, you know, again, vaccines are a great, safe way to induce that immune response to provide protection. So I think this is very good stuff.
Do we have any reporter questions on the line today? Well, let's get to our community. Joellen has a question for mom and dad. So Kale and Casey, she's curious. She said this must have involved a lot of trips to Kansas City. How were you able to manage that? She thinks that might be pretty stressful to have to go back and forth, even though you were in the right spot.
Before this, I could not drive in Kansas City. Like, I had never drove in a big town like that before. Kale kind of was our driver. But, you know, when Cole was in the hospital with RSV, and even before that, we got to know, I basically met for the first time one of his uncles who lived in Kansas City. Didn't know them very much, and they offered their home to us whenever we had to come to Kansas City. And, you know, that has been such an amazing blessing for us, you know, to not have to worry about, you know, taking a potentially immunocompromised kid into a hotel room.
Sure.
We could stay in their home, and basically they let it be our home for the time we were there. And, you know, there were churches here in our small town that, you know, gave us money for gas, and we had our work, both were amazing with letting us have time off work. So we were both able to be at all of her doctor's appointments. You know, we were able to be a family through all of this.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, that made it so much easier than a lot of people who are going through similar situations. You know, we just have one kid. Some of the people we would meet, you know, they'd have 2 children at home with dad, and mom was at the hospital, and, you know, they never got to see their siblings. They never got to see their other parent, you know.
It's
I
tough.
say all the time, I'm like, if you think you are having a bad day, go and sit in a waiting room at a children's hospital, because you will meet people that are having, you know, that have it way worse than you. And, you know, we met so many people that were just an inspiration to us through the struggles that they had gone through. And, you know, they came out on top, and I think that gave us the hope that, you know, we would too.
Dr. Garcia, I bet it's nice to know, though, because you see these parents. I mean, you're working with these small pediatric patients, and actually that was one of our questions, is this just what it's like for you to do this day in and day out. But I would imagine it's nice for you to see that stress load taken off of your patients' families, and to know that their support and their communities are coming and kind of wrapping their arms around them, right?
I mean, yeah, you need a lot of support for these situations, these types of tumors. And I always tell families that, I'm really sorry, but you've just entered a marathon race, and when I meet you for the first time, it's, we're very early in this, and so to have support is needed, either family or community and beyond. But these are not easy to get through, and there was, there's the initial surgery, and then there's sometimes other surgeries that are needed on top of that, and a lifetime of following this up to make sure it doesn't come back, because we can't put her through what we put her through already. I don't think she ever will, and it'll never grow back like it was before. But the goal is to keep a close eye on this, and at such a young age, she's going to need, like many children, is going to need this followed for many more years. So
Sherry wants to know, Dr. Camerata, she says, I love that the hospitals work together. What is the story about the collaboration that goes on among hospitals? I mean, I know you can't speak for everywhere in the country, but certainly here in the Kansas City area, and us just being so lucky to have an academic medical center just down the street from a children's hospital. How often does that happen?
Yeah, probably not often enough. But I mean, this is, kudos to Dr. Garcia once he recognized this, to say, we need to get some other folks involved to do what's best for the patient. And, the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, creating something like this, the amount of collaboration is really, phenomenal. And a shout out to all those folks, from schedulers to, handling all of the communication, the emails, moving the films and the images back and forth, being able to see these, getting us all together on Zoom calls and in person, and then finally having it happen and the follow-up.
It's like a big production being put together, and then that day comes.
Yeah.
And then all the magic happens.
Exactly.
All the pressure's on you.
Yeah. The whole team. Yeah.
The whole team.
Yeah.
Quick question for Mary, though, before we get to our final thoughts. Is there a genetic component to tumors like this? You said you don't know necessarily where and why these happen. But
yeah, I don't think in ganglioglioma, in this, there is a syndrome that goes with gangliomas in another part of the brain, but not this part. And I don't know, David, do you know anything more than that? I don't think we know that there's a genetic component to this.
No, not that like a family member would have to be screened for or anything like that. There are some mutations that happen, but not that anything she was born with.
So what would someone need to look out for if you're an adult? Dr. Camerata tells us, that you would know that something's wrong, that maybe you need to get to a neurosurgeon, and then Dr. Garcia, how would a parent know?
Yeah, so, the brain tumors can present in a variety of ways. This particular one presented with, first of all, hearing loss, and then kind of a mass that started to appear, and asymmetry in the face. Those are a little unusual in adults, although certain tumors like neurofibromas do cause a misshapen face or abnormalities like that. And brain tumors in adults most of the time present with either, seizures, a neurologic deficit, meaning someone that's got arm or leg weakness or numbness, and sometimes really, really bad headaches that don't go away for a long period of time.
Dr. Garcia, anything to add for parents with young kids that maybe they should look out for, that there's a tumor growing in a spot that they need to get checked out immediately?
Yeah, I think in Kolbie's situation with the hearing, when someone fails a newborn hearing screen, that's almost never a brain tumor. So if most time it's an ear thing, and so that her case is just a really rare presentation. Like Dr. Camerata said, something we call like a neurological deficit, so weakness on one side of the body. Kids tend to present with seizures many times. So if there's seizures, those are kind of red flags to get evaluated pretty immediately, even if you're a young baby and having seizures, or it goes all the way up to adulthood. Especially a first-time seizure is something to be concerned about. Those are the big ones for kids. I would say that probably need more immediate attention, though. Seizures are something focal on examination.
Let's get to our final thoughts today. And Casey, Kale, and Kolbie, we'll start with you. Just what are your final thoughts? What do you want us to know? And then we've got to see that picture.
I mean, I think that, this was kind of a fast go through of Kolbie's history. We have a Caring Bridge page that really goes into a lot more detail with Kolbie's story. It's Caring Bridge / Kolbie Vibe Pants, because that was one of our nicknames for her from when she was born. And I think, one of the most important things is, trusting in God, trusting in His plan, leaning on your family and your friends. We call Kolbie our rock star, and we kind of just took that and ran with it. We call all of her friends and family her fan club, and they have been. The support that we've had through this whole thing has just been amazing. Friends became family, and our family became even closer. And I thank God every day that He sent all of these amazing doctors into our lives. People ask us, how did you get through this? How did you do it? And I think a big part of it is, we, from the very beginning, we trusted our team. We trusted Dr. Garcia. We knew that Dr. Garcia wanted what was best for Kolbie. And we felt like we didn't even have to, we didn't have to make the hard decisions, because we knew that, like Dr. Camerata said, all these teams were working behind the scenes, talking to other people, and, doing what they do every day. And, Dr. Garcia has been a blessing to us. And, like we kind of talked, any of the doctors and surgeons, nurses, anybody, our table is always open to you. Come visit us. It would make them very uncomfortable, but I wish that I could, give them a hug every day for
I
the
know,
rest of.
Casey, I know you said if I could give Dr. Garcia a hug every day for the rest of my life, I would.
I would. And, and not just Dr. Garcia, we were going through some stuff, and I made this list. And these are all of the names of all the people, well, that we can remember.
That's a big list.
So many we couldn't remember. And, there's 150 names on that list of people that have been a part of her story, whether it be, at the local hospital level to KU, Children's Mercy.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, these people are amazing.
Well, Casey, I think you said in your story, and Dr. Camerata, I know you believe this too. We talk about on the show intersection of faith and science coming together, and she said, we relied on God to bring us to the right people, and that led them to you and Dr. Garcia and those over 100 names on that sheet of paper. So I think your gratitude is shining through. But all of you, we appreciate that. Okay, let's see this picture that this girl has been working on, and she has been working hard.
I'll show them first.
Okay.
I'm going to show them the one for daughter or the one for doctor.
Oh, we got Camerata too.
She did two, so.
Oh, I
my
gotta see
goodness.
this. Oh, this is good. Okay, let's see what we got.
Okay, which one? So this one? Yeah.
So this.
Oh, I'll wait all day.
No, I don't know which one I want.
Okay, while you two work that out, I'm going to get to Dr. Garcia. Dr. Garcia, give us your final thoughts while Kolbie's figuring out what she wants to show.
I mean, it just to get to this point is this is why we do this job. I mean, this is the to see, someone with kind of presented with such an uphill climb at the start of this, and multiple surgeries and multiple hospitals working towards this, and she's drawing us pictures now. That's why we do this, and our goal is to get her to do the other big first things in life and go to school and graduate, and she's, I think, going to grow up and live a happy and long and normal life, despite kind of having a rough stretch of a couple of years and lots of surgeries. And lots of follow-up still to go, but she's doing as well as I think anybody could do in this situation, and I'm just looking forward to seeing her grow up. So
Love it. Okay, what are we looking at here? What do we got?
Let us say it loud.
Dr. Garcia.
thank you, sweetie.
That's Dr. Camerata?
Like move it more towards mom. There we
There
go.
we go. Yeah.
Is that Dr. Camerata? Because
It looks exactly like him.
it's perfect.
We did not touch the art part of her brain, obviously.
You did
It's-
not, and I'm
Yeah.
framing this. This is hanging in your office. This is
I love
perfect. Love it. I love what you said to Dr. Garcia. It's like this. These are the moments that what those 13-hour surgeries and all that planning comes down to these moments. Dr. Camerata, what's it like though for you? It must be very rewarding, huge success story, and just being able to, like you said, I know you handle adult cases, but to just be a part of this special case, what's this been like for you?
Very special. I mean, we're like the carpenters in this. We just go in there and do our work, and it's a day. It's a long day, but we tend not to look at the long history and all of the things that we've affected by that day. And I just, again, the amazing collaboration that happened between these two, outstanding health systems. I think this time we did the right thing.
Yeah, nice work.
Yeah.
Thank you. And always good to see you, Dr. Camerata.
Great to see you, Jess. Thank you.
Dr. Garcia, thank you for joining us. And Casey, stay in touch, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. You are friends of the health system, so come back and see us, and we'll see you soon. Bye, sweetie. Thank you. Oh, I love it. Blow you a kiss right back. Right back. All right, Dr. Hopkinson, you've always got to follow someone great, like a little cute kid like that.
Well, I think the health system should auction those two works of art off at
I
their
think
next
so.
event. I think that would be good for everybody.
I think we're onto
giving to other
something.
people. So, again, I think we just go back to it's just wonderful working here with these great colleagues and everything that they can do, and the ability to collaborate. Collaborate different health systems is great. Collaboration within the health system, doing it every day. Dr. Camerata and I work together, and it's always really good to be able to do that. So, just an outstanding place to work, and obviously you can see the great people over the course of these shows that we have here, working for you, working for your family, really just to get you home and keep you well and healthy.
Well said. Doc Hawk, thanks so much. And thank you for being with us today. You can catch our updates anytime by logging back onto Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Go out, make it a great Tuesday. We'll see you back here for Open Mics tomorrow. More than 25% of adults in both Kansas and Missouri are considered obese. Now, researchers at the University of Kansas Medical Center are working to slim down that problem. Meet a woman who went in for a checkup and found out she had a fatty liver. How this discovery helped turn her health around. Plus, the new ways that could soon be used to fight the obesity epidemic. We'll see you Wednesday at 8.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcast. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.